and it redirected me to some page listing of different languages and was claiming I wanted to access the form in a language they didn't support, which was strange because I speak English. But that being said, I managed to get around that problem, funnily enough, by using Firefox. So I think that was an issue with Chromium. And
which reminds me of another bit of news, which I sort of missed. I was away at the time. It turned out to be a hoax, though. Lots of people may have heard about the
I know you forgot.
Well, one of the things I will just say, just to give you short stories, loads of people will assume to know that users know better, probably move away from what comes by default, which usually is Internet Explorer. So it's quite safe to say, one would argue, that people who bother to make the change to a different browser actually choose their own browser. They don't just use whatever is available, they actually choose a browser. And they usually are the more intelligent people. Now, there was apparently a bogus study recently showing these things in a more, shall we say, scientifically sound way, perhaps based on a so-called survey, and it turned out to be a fake. So then the BBC was deleting the old article, and I think not Fox News, the Daily Mail, which is like the one of Murdoch's so-called newspapers, was talking about. Articles were starting to vanish because this was a very good classic case of the press being hoaxed by a bunch of people who know how to pretend to have conducted a study or to represent someone. But anyway, if a person still uses, I find from my personal experience that most people that do use Internet Explorer don't really understand computing, and many of them don't even know the difference between disk space and memory, like, read-only memory.
It's quite funny because on certain circles and certain Microsoft advocates are touting the reprinting of this particular story by certain Linux advocates as being proof that Linux advocates are just there to stick one in the eye of Microsoft and they'll believe everything. And when I first saw this story, I knew instantly it was fake. The only thing that threw me for about half a second was the fact that it wasn't April the 1st, which is when we normally get these sort of stories out. It was blatantly, obviously fake. How they could draw those conclusions, I wasn't buying it. And it's typical. As soon as it hits the BBC and the BBC start printing the story, every normal person has to be instantly dubious of any story that the BBC runs with, in my view. So, and to be fair, I think it quoted the Internet Explorer's average IQ of 80. Was it, or something like that?
Yes.
Or 85? I can't remember the exact figure. Well, that in itself, I think, is way too high for an Internet Explorer user as well. So that was the other reason why I thought the story was false. And so no, I never printed it, I never spoke about it, and I let it rise and just waited for the message that would come out to say, bang, it's a fake story. And sure enough, it did. So yes, I don't think the BBC will be so quick to print stories in the future. Although it would be quite fun to try and see how far the BBC would go with the story if you were to print something completely outrageous with a little bit of supporting evidence. Yes, maybe that's an experiment for somebody in the future. But with that in mind, Roy, it's time for you to introduce the first track of the night.
Yeah, well, the first one is, this one is called Sorry Baby, and the singer is Dan Dyer.
Sorry, baby. Sometimes my words rush out like canaries from a cage. You're everything a man could want. I don't know why I act so senseless and depraved. There's a part of us, both of us, I don't trust. It makes us treat the ones we love the worst. I have seen the worst of things, grows like rings inside a tree that's beaten by the storm. I'm sorry, baby. I haven't been around when you needed me the most. The road is a long one. I can't count how many lines I've crossed. sense of direction. We both have known that I'd be gone alone and alone, and I just wish I had you here beside me. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Makes us treat the ones we love the worst. We both have known that I'll be gone alone and alone, and I just wish I had you here beside me. I'm sorry. Hey. Oh, so sorry, baby. Never meant to hurt you. Oh, and I never desert you. And I probably don't deserve you. No, I'm sorry, baby. Yeah, so sorry. Ooh, so sorry. I'm so sorry, baby.
Okay, we're back again, and I think Roy's going to pick up a few more stories for us to cover.
Well, one of the things I did recently was try to install games, which I don't usually do, but when I when I set up a machine for someone else, I like to install some games on it. So I know I can waste somebody else's time for their enjoyment and for their lack of productivity. And there were quite a few games released recently, and I know you've reviewed at least one of them, I believe, a few days ago. Maybe you can talk about that.
Yes. I mean, it's this is one, and I have to plug in here for where I'm getting some of these releases from. This was a title that was brought to my attention from another Google Pluser. It's the Linux Gamecast, I believe that's the name of the show. And they, on a daily basis, have 3 or 4 Linux gaming titles that they highlight. And this particular one that caught my eye, because I've always been a fan of a good platform game from since I was a big fan of computing in the 80s and 90s, and it's called Beep. It's very good, a very nice little 2D sort of hybrid 3D parallax scrolling platform game with a physics element in it, and very good little game. The demo is very good. I still haven't completed it because I haven't got around to finishing the product, but it's it's based on a story a bit like a Wall-E type scenario, if ever you've seen that film, and you go around collecting things, manipulating the scenery with your fractal beam, and it's very good, very polished, a very enjoyable little game, and it's available for the full version's available for $9.99, which really, on the grand scheme of things, is very cheap. I think that works out in our British pounds about £7, is this?
Probably a little more expensive on average than the Humble Bundle.
Yes, it's
which is, well, the last time I checked, was approaching $1 million in terms of revenue, which was just generally interesting because they seem to be doing quite alright. I mean, developers get paid for their efforts, even though the sell is based on a voluntary basis where you basically set your own prices and you choose to pay what you think is suitable. And I wonder if this year, too, Linux will be well ahead of the pack as in previous years, showing again that the Linux users are more generous and more willing to pay for software, or for games in this case.
Well, I think it's also a good sign that the indie developer now, it's quite a lucrative business to be in. You're no longer resigned to having just selling 2 or 3 copies by maybe a bit of luck and a bit of word of mouth on a very small scale. Indie developers that produce quality titles that people want to buy, for example, Minecraft is one that springs instantly to mind. It's a very lucrative industry now, and